Lot of moves made by the Warriors over the weekend. Some expected, some surprising, and here we are, 24 hours, I guess a little over that from opening night. And most NBA seasons at the start, people try to hype it up. Oh, this is going to be such an Now this season I think has some real potential to just, I mean, who knows, right? But just so many storylines, so many unknowns, and we're at a spot in the league here where there's kind of a changing of the guard with some of these young stars taking a step, how these older guys are going to fight them off, man. So really looking forward to covering this season, man. And if you aren't a subscriber already, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, But look, I'm going to mostly cover Warrior stuff. That's my team. But I'm going to give takes on stuff around the league. And yeah, I'd appreciate it. But let's get into these moves. Let's start first with young money Jordan Poole. Well, the 123. We knew Hero got 4 years, 120. But 130. So here's the thing. The incentives were much different. If the incentives came out for Tyler Hero's contract, and he could earn $1 million here or $1 million there by making an all NBA team. I say that like, just pennies, but it's all relative, right? But some of his incentives were like win MVP, win defensive player of the year. Like there was some Pat Riley shits in that contract, right? Jordan Poole's is 123 guaranteed over 4 with the possibility of going to 140. His incentives, it's interesting, the culture, and part of this is probably the agents and stuff like that, but a lot of his incentives are winning based. Play 65 games, make the playoffs. Play 65 games, make the Western Conference Finals. There were a lot more kind of team and winning based incentives. But the two boys from Milwaukee, they've going to be compared to each other. It was no mistake that Jordan got $3 million extra guaranteed, right? That these guys, that's just how these guys are wired. The competitiveness, you don't make it to this level without having that competitiveness. And so, yeah, we all were expecting that contract to go down. We also heard from Jordan Poole for the first time. And I think the most telling thing about it was when they asked him about Draymond, you could hear the inflection in his voice that clearly showed us he's hurt, man. Not physically, but like he came off as hurt that Draymond would have done that, right? But he didn't play nice about it. I like that he was honest, and he said, "Look, we're here to win championships. We're here to play basketball." There was none of this like, "Oh, he's my big bro, and we're gonna move past this," and da da da. No, he was just like, "Look, man." But you could tell again in his voice flexion that he's still hurt by this. That's, understandable. And I'm not here to say that they can't eventually squash this, but clearly it's not squashed yet at all, right? And so that's understandable. When you look at this contract long-term for Jordan, I think first and foremost, let's give him credit, right? Pure hooper, relentless work ethic, and that's why he is where he is today. But if you look at it from the organization's standpoint, I think there's an added bonus when you project out to who he's going to become as a player because of the fact that he's got to play and be alongside Steph Curry every day of his NBA career. There's an osmosis there and a system integrity that they're keeping with Poole and the way he's been taught and brought up. And hell, he's a champion already, right? So I think that it was an easy decision for the Warriors. It was a no-brainer. And that was probably, I think, the other biggest quote from the press conference. Bob Myers spoke as well. And he said, ultimately, with Poole and Wiggins, we're betting on the person. We're betting on who they are. Right? And you think that's true, right? And you just think about who Draymond is and betting on the person of Draymond. We'll talk about that later. Now, the more surprising contract, Wiggins. 109, 4 years. That's a very odd number. Usually you don't see that odd number in contract deals. And it just shows you how much the Warriors are going to have to crunch the numbers and how every bit counts with that luxury tax, as we know. But Wiggins is just showing you the Warrior culture. He's a Warrior, right? He fits the culture to a T, because what guy in his spot is all right with Poole getting more? Wiggins has been in the league longer. He's accomplished more. He was the second best player in that playoff run. Let's make no mistake about it, right? In the prime of his career, at a position that's in much more demand, right? After what he did in this playoff run, a championship, how he's turned his career around, he has another solid run like that this year. No one would have been surprised if he would have been maxed out by somebody. You heard the Lakers were interested, the Cavs were interested. He's just in demand. But Wiggins, again, cool with Poole taking less, right? And working with the organization. Why? Because he seems to be a dude that has his priorities straight. He wants to win, right? He's acting like a warrior. He and Poole clearly have a strong bond off the court, which is dope to see as they get to, they're here for the long term, right? And then it's cool also because on the court, they fit so well together because I think they bring to the table the things that the other one is missing, right? And so it's just a cool connection. And, Wiggins, year 4 now, you see how comfortable he is in the system and how efficient he's going to be. But more importantly, it's the fact that he wants this role. He's comfortable in this role. And you could make the argument that Andrew Wiggins is the most talented number 3 option we've ever seen. Talented number 3 option, but he's okay with it. And so many times in the league, we see the opposite of this, right? That's usually the story where it's a guy who has the talent. It's like, you should probably be a number 2 guy, a Robin, but they're insistent on being the guy. And it's like, you're not going to win, right? And Wiggins, the talent, we know he has the talent to be the number 1 guy, but that's not his personality. So it's very rare, again, to find a guy this talented that's not just willing, but comfortable as that 3rd option. And hey, him as the core 3 get older, maybe he will bump up to that 2 or 1 option at times, right? But I'm just saying, it's just a rare find. I think the Warriors are really happy about locking these 2 down. Now, as for Draymond, the writing is on the wall. Well played, Bob Myers, Joe Lacob, in the organization, right? Because it was like a couple of days ago, everybody was talking about, Draymond, they need him, and he got away with it. He got away with it. They didn't even suspend him. Now, they had this up their sleeve. This was part of this, right? This was all part of the equation. It was like, okay, cool. Contract year for you. Hey, you've got a player option. Play it out. Let's see it. But we got to do what we got to do. We're a business. And so, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I have some other thoughts for the patron on Draymond. I don't want to spend too much time on him. I'll talk about that later. The other news was the Warriors swapped out both of their 2-way spots over the weekend. Was it Friday? So they released Lester Quinones out of Memphis, who was brought in. He was James Wiseman's roommate at Memphis when he was briefly there. So I thought there was part of that connection. But yeah, they released him and Quandary Weatherspoon. Now, Quandary, a lot of the fans had become attached to him. He played very well in Santa Cruz. He plays hard, and a lot of people thought that he would be kind of a GP2 replacement. Maybe not as much, right? He wouldn't play as much as GP2, but could come in and fill that role. He's a good, strong defender. He's not as special as GP2. He's such a rarity, right? He's an anomaly. But I understand that concept in theory, but here was the difference. GP essentially could play center offensively. We saw it all year, right? In the dunker spot, cutting out of the corners, and the way he finished, GP's a unicorn, right? And Quandary offensively is a kind of a ball stopper, doesn't spread the floor, likes to dribble, right? He doesn't fit the system offensively. And so you couldn't really use him in that GP role because offensively, where does he fit? That was the portion of it, right? And now you look at Ty Jerome, where I get it, the narrow shoulders, he doesn't move like an athlete, but Ty Jerome is a basketball player, man. And he's like the guy when you're playing pickup, you're down at LA Fitness or wherever you're doing your runs, and you don't really notice him, right? He's just like another guy out there. But then you realize, you're like, wait a minute, this dude is always on the winning team. That's Ty Jerome. He's a connector, right? His game is nuanced, but he makes other guys look good because of how high his IQ is and because he's a ball mover. So He's much more of a system fit. And I know that people were disappointed again in losing Quandary, but I think Ty is going to help you forget that. Give him some time to learn the system and get familiar, because again, he's not an athlete. He's not going to just come in, boom, boom, Mac McClung and ooh and ah you. But as he gets comfortable in the system and with the personnel, you're going to start to see what he brings to the table. The second spot is Anthony Lamb. Let me check my notes here on him. 24 years old, 6'6". I'm looking up. He was successful at every level. He played at Vermont, but he was a scorer. He had like 30 and 40-point games in college. And what happened was there was a sexual assault accusation. Now, I'm not here, that's a very touchy subject, right? But accusation. Ball player, college, who knows, right? That's all it was. But then the other layer of that for him, his character profile, was he was very open discussing his clinical depression. So those two things scared teams away from him in the draft, along with physically. I'm going to go ahead and assume he didn't test out well, right? And teams viewed him as kind of a guy like, all right, he's not athletic enough to be on the wing, but he's not quite big enough to play in the paint, right? And so he bounced around G League, Houston Rockets, got a cup of coffee here, and the Warriors have brought him in. He's a little of this, a little of that, right? Rebounds well and can shoot the ball, but he's a toolsy guy with some size. I think the upside is athletically, you look at his physique, I think he's leaving a lot on the table. Meaning if he wants it, if he can get the nutrition down and train, I think he can get quite a bit more athletic by altering his body. So we'll see, the Warriors and trusting a kid with, I won't say a checkered past, but, some question marks. You bring him into this infrastructure and this culture, and we've seen it so many times where players tend to flourish. But you understand the skill set and that sizey kind of versatile wing guy that the Warriors like. So they've brought him and Ty Jerome in for those two-way spots. All right, well, Tuesday night, Warriors-Lakers. Early game, Boston Celtics. Hey, I might hop on live or do something. I don't know how excited I'll be, what my schedule is. But, man, I'm ready. I'm ready for the action. I know y'all are too. So hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.